good now, Mr. Mayor.
Good. All right, welcome everybody. We'll now resume our regular council meeting of the Township of Cabanilon on this Monday, January 18th. Our first item is item 7.1, Sean Murphy and Vivek Bajal, MNP Website and IT Service Delivery and Modernization Review. Welcome, Sean and Vivek. Are you there? Bridget, I don't know whether you wanted to do a quick introduction or just turn it right over to them.
Sure, I can do that. Sean and Vivek have been working with staff on the Website and IT Service Delivery Modernization Review. I think as council knows, or at least saw in the subsequent report that's to follow, the municipality received some funding to do a service review. Some municipalities chose to do a very broad-based review. Others, like ourselves, chose to do one that had a very specific focus, particularly with our IT services. So we engaged MNP to do the review for us. We had a great working relationship, so I will turn it over to, I believe Sean is actually giving the presentation. So Sean, if you'd like to move forward.
Perfect. Thanks, Bridget. Your worship, council members, thanks very much for your time today. It's great to be here. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
Yep.
Perfect.
Sounds
Perfect.
good.
Terrific. So so let me get started. So may I get the next slide, please? So we were engaged by the township to conduct what was termed a website and IT service delivery and modernization review. And so the focus here was to assess 5 different department areas, including administration, fleet management, asset management, complaints, planning and the GIS mapping, as well as buildings. So the focus of the assignment was really to get a sense of how things were running from an IT perspective from a current state, start to envision what that would look like in the future, develop a roadmap to get there, and ultimately have that culminate in a technology modernization report. So I'm going to walk through a brief executive summary of that with you today. And I believe the material has been provided to you as part of the council package as part of the next steps. Next slide, please. So where are we? So from a current state perspective, we had a great opportunity to engage with folks within the township and also with the county to get a sense of where things are at. And so fundamentally, it came down to 4 key areas where we, had findings and observations. The first was around governance related to IT decision making. So there's an opportunity there to look at how we could, how there could be better decision making around what that meant for focusing and making investments related to IT. There was some. So the next area was around network infrastructure. We detected some obsolescence of some components related to network infrastructure, mostly related to delays due to the pandemic, but they had an impact, and we, from a risk mitigation perspective, we felt that this was a high priority item to be addressed as part of the not only right on into 2021. So that was a second area of where we saw issues. The third area was around applications and what I call the IT systems used to manage township functions. And so we isolated these and looked at the portfolio as a whole related to what that meant for Keystone, which is your financial system for the township. And I believe that was a subject of conversation during the last council meeting. And also some of the other areas related to cloud permitting, also aspects related to the website, as well as some other areas and other functions related to key applications, related to complaints, land development tracking. And a lot of these were in collaboration with what the county was up to as well. And then finally, looking at improvements to the citizen service area related to infrastructure and applications. So a lot of the things that we talked about from a network perspective and application portfolio need to be put in place first to support ultimately enhancing that citizen service that we're talking about. Next slide, please. So from a vision perspective, a lot of the same themes that I've talked about, but what we're, I guess, focused on in terms of determining now what that would look like for the future of the township related to IT and service delivery was really looking to create the high performance perspective to support a lot of the key objectives that council is looking at for the township. And so to enable this, we looked at how to make changes to decision making to support governance and growing IT capacity. Looking at how to modernize and make the infrastructure more secure. Ultimately, we want to use this to support and enable improved citizen service, but fundamentally supporting being enabled by what we need to do to improve processes inside the township and how we can use applications and IT systems to support that. Next slide, please. So we're focused, I guess, in 3 areas from the objectives of the strategy that we've outlined, and those 3 objectives are around risk mitigation and how we can mitigate what we're seeing ongoing from a current day perspective and what we're looking at for the future, how to improve operational effectiveness, and ultimately enhancing citizen service. And so we've outlined 3 key strategies to do that. One was to upgrade some infrastructure, rebalance the application portfolio, and strengthening the decision-making processes for governance purposes around IT. Next slide. So we outline this in, I guess, a variety of different projects and programs as part of our roadmap over the next 3.5 years. So a lot of this we've outlined in terms of some small incremental pieces that that could take place between now and fiscal year end. But more importantly, what that would do to start kicking off for 21-22 through to 23-24. And the next slide starts to get into what the budget implications are for that. Next slide, please. And so what we've outlined, and some of this has already been taken into consideration in terms of a lot of the material I think Kimberly had already provided as part of the last council meeting related to the core finance system. Which is probably the largest, biggest ticket item for the 21-22 budget year. But more importantly, what we also outlined is some of these smaller interim projects that would need to be put in place, largely in partnership with the county, with some small investments required along the way. And this gets laid out in the next slide in a pretty small Gantt chart, made more available in the overall project deliverable and report, but we've tried to lay this out in terms of what that means specifically through the months of beginning this month through to 2024. And I'll leave you with this last picture on the next slide, which kind of looks awkwardly garbled here, but literally if I focus on the left-hand part of the screen, really we're focused on the township locations and upgrading where the infrastructure pieces that we talked about need to be put in place to support a more secure infrastructure. But largely moving a lot of the, what I'll call the office automation pieces, like the Excels, the Outlooks, the Exchange pieces that I guess the township employees will be working through from an office automation perspective, would move to what's called a Microsoft Cloud. So working with the county to establish that as part of their project and moving forward. So making those tools more available regardless of where the employee is. And then ultimately moving a lot of the portfolio of applications and systems that are currently available to township employees, but using that in another cloud basis, what we're calling a public cloud internet. We're essentially moving our finance system as well as the other key applications and tools that I guess the township employees would be using for their ongoing work. So essentially, we're moving towards a more modern environment and infrastructure in a much more secure manner than what is currently available today. So apologies for that. I guess Zoom is not friendly to this particular diagram, but if there's any questions or anything, I'm pleased to take them now. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. Questions from members of council? Councilor Bell.
Through you, Mayor. We've been watching in media over the last few years that unfriendly governments have had the unfortunate experience of being attacked in their what infrastructure on the net, and that they get everything from stolen money through to sort of holding their particular websites hostage. Have we got a situation such that we're aware that we could be attacked, but we've got software, et cetera, set up such that it would prevent that from happening?
Go ahead, Sean.
So the typical kind of situations related to the ransomware attacks that I think you're referring to.
Yes.
So yes, so from looking at those kinds of what the industry calls vectors or attack, the way those organizations attack, is certainly no organization is immune from them. I'm just going to state that up front. It all comes back to mitigation factors to support that. And so today, your infrastructure is indeed protected. There is no sign of, I guess, those attack vectors existing in terms of our review, although the scope of our review didn't go to the level of trying to do any penetration, what the industry would call penetration testing of that. I think the key things that we identified is that there would be backups in place, and there is protections in place of any information available on the website. And that is in place today.
And if I can just add to that, Sean, is that we have proposed as part of the roadmap is that after you've completed that initial upgrade to the infrastructure, you should do a validation of its security. And so in the plan, that is a proposed project that should happen fairly soon.
Councillor Huntley?
Through you, Chair. It was kind of having the same questions as Councillor Belch around the penetration testing and whatnot. And I do see that you have the costs already built in there for the testing and the validating. But is that not also an ongoing cost? Like it's not a one-shot deal, right? Like you have to keep maintaining that on an annual basis. But I didn't see any costs flowing for kind of that ongoing pen testing as well. Is that something you were considering, or how are you handling that?
Well, it's also part of the, I guess, one of the conversations. So I think we mentioned a specific project in terms of the replacement of the network infrastructure that we talked about. But more importantly, one of the conversations that we'd had with the team in the township was the need to do this on an ongoing basis, and that was part of the as part of the audit that in some of the controls associated with the financial system, that it would also create the opportunity to do so. But at this point, we didn't include any costing for ongoing basis. It would be one of the things that would emerge as part of that control audit.
Okay.
Very good. Councillor Huntley?
Yeah, through you again, Chair. It's great detailing the outline of all the costs that we're incurring, but is there, at any point, did you actually show us the costs that we're being relieved of by not having our own infrastructure and by moving to more of a cloud-based infrastructure for the Office 365 pieces? Obviously, there were on-site licensing and all that sort of ELAs that were in place prior. How is there any way to see what we're saving by doing this as well?
Well,
like what's the ROI on this?
Well, so I think part of that that went to the scope of what we were asked to look at. So we didn't go through a detailed cost analysis of what was existing versus what was in the offing. We also, I guess, so that's the first point. The second point was really the opportunity to embark and be part of the county to relinquish those aspects in terms of renewals that you'd be paying on an ongoing basis. So a lot of cases, it's a bit of a wash in terms of where you're going. So from moving into the Microsoft cloud. I don't know, Vivek, you had anything else to add there?
No, I think that was it, really, sort of doing a more detailed sort of assessment of the ROI was a little bit kind of beyond our scope here, I think.
Okay, because I would look at this as this is all net new on top of operating costs that we already have without knowing what comes out because we do this.
Bridget, did you have something to add? I see your hand up.
Yes, I do. Through you, Mayor McFadden, to Councillor Huntley. Right, for the scope of this particular report, that wasn't part of it. But having said that, that's a very good question. And if council would wish, staff can review that and come back with a report that would outline cost savings.
Well, sorry, I don't even think it's necessary. It has to be cost savings, just kind of the cost differentiation, right? Like, you know, if this is going to be, you know, $5,000 a year more than what we're previously paying, then it's easier to absorb than this is a, you know, an all net new cost, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we didn't actually ask them to evaluate that, but we certainly can do that evaluation.
Right.
Apologies, I don't see Bridget, I don't see your hand and I don't see your face, so maybe I just see your name. So I'm not, sorry, Sean, I know you had addressed Bridget. Is your video turned on? There you are, okay. All right, I thought I'd missed a hand, I don't see you. Okay, I see you now.
I'm that scary lady in the background.
Okay, all good. One of the items, this seems to premise off of diving deep into the network infrastructure right off the bat. That seems to be the big one. But that was already approved for 2020. So what sort of commitments do we have from the county to get that done in 2021? Because my concern is if that's not done, then everything else isn't going to get done either. So
through you, Mayor McFadden, to you, Mayor McFadden, yes, you're correct. It was identified as part of the 2020 budget. I can let Kimberly speak to that in greater detail, but I believe the plans to move forward with it were halted because of COVID. So I think it is a huge priority right now. It has been costed as part of the 2020 budget. Therefore, it's been carried over to the 2021 budget. But Kimberly, if you wanted to jump in and provide a little more detail.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Sorry, I tried to turn on my video, but it doesn't seem to want to start here. But yes, we've definitely had conversations with the County of Peterborough. It is definitely due to COVID because we did have the server upgrades addressed in the 2020 budget and approved by council. That is as part of the top of their priority to move forward. And you'll see in the report coming up from staff that we're also discussing about future testing as per MNP's recommendation as well, working with the county more closely, developing a committee to put a team together which will have a county representative on it, and moving forward all these different types of suggestions just to improve our process and to become that much better in managing our IT. It has definitely grown over the last 10 to 15 years, and we want to make sure that it's being managed appropriately, but also being available to all the public in a way that gives them access to our services and to ensure that we're doing everything that we can to make it the best that it can be for our residents.
I guess back to the question, though, do we have a commitment and a time frame to have this to have it done? I mean, it was in 2020. It's one thing to blame it on the pandemic. Everybody's still working in there, and quite frankly, nothing has been done that I'm aware of, and we're still in the middle of a pandemic. So is it going to get done? Because everything else is queued up behind it.
Through you, Mayor, to council, yes, they do have it as a priority. They've actually already started moving ahead on our hardware order and are trying to acquire through a different vendor. So I've already seen improvement to date because last year we had the order to the county right as soon as the budget was passed in February with the finalization, and we didn't receive product until late September for installation purposes. So I can already see an improvement happening already. Also because they're partnering with us to make sure that our Diamond software is upgraded over that 18-month period. They're sitting in on the committee for the development there, and will be working closely with us. And some of these changes or some of these improvements have to be made to make sure that we're supporting that process as well. So every indication so far is that they're with us and they're walking forward with us, and there hasn't been any additional delays mentioned, and we continue to keep them with us as we walk forward. So a separate commitment, Mayor. Unfortunately, I don't have that, but definitely based on what I'm seeing to date and them being at the table for our discussions as we go along, there isn't any delays that have been brought to our attention as of yet.
Okay, very good. I guess just to a question for Ms. Hurley, I'm looking, you're not on. Given that it's already a year since the direction was provided, and with regards to the infrastructure portion, nothing has been done with regards to the pandemic, how best would you suggest we're moving ahead with this entire strategy, given that everything is dependent upon that infrastructure? Would it be a quarterly update, on a monthly update? How to proceed? Because I don't want to find out in another year's time that as a result of the pandemic, we still don't have anything done on the infrastructure.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I guess the question, I'd have to defer to Kimberly, as Kimberly manages their contract. Kimberly, is there anything in their contract, or are they advising you on a regular basis or quarterly basis?
Through you, Sao, back to council. Yes, they've been advising us the entire way with regards to delays that they were having with the hardware. They did indicate that the servers would come, the improvements there would come on board thereafter. So then again, like I said, they've been reiterated. They know that it's a roll forward. We are in conversation. They are planning that deployment, but I don't actually have a timeline. However, we are meeting next week as a group to discuss the 18-month rollout of the Diamond Virtual City Hall software. And in there, they'll have specific timelines, and I can ask them to add the server timeline in there as well, so we can get some key dates for expected installation and improvements. They've already mentioned as well as part of their contract that they would be willing to work with some of our other aspects of this recommendation with regards to the policy handbook, and then also testing of the servers on an ongoing basis in addition to what they have already provided. So we can just ask for them to outline those items on the same timeline grid that we're working with the Diamond Virtual City Hall, and we'll have an 18-month schedule then, and I can report back to council with the specific dates that things will be done by.
I think that'd be helpful, because I'm surprised. I wasn't aware that nothing was getting done in the past year after having gone through the budget and approved it. Any other questions, Councillor Huntley?
Yeah, through you, Chair. I'm a little confused now at this point that we're dependent on the county to purchase servers and infrastructure. I mean, if what I was reading here is that you're going to a cloud-based environment, and provisioning cloud images is minutes, not days or weeks or months. So are we truly talking a public cloud, or are we not talking a public cloud?
I guess there's this, sorry, through you, Chair. Sorry, I'm trying to get the right lingo, but to Councillor Huntley's question, there's two aspects. There's the on-premise, so in the office, the actual township locations, where we do need to have those secure infrastructure upgrades in order to provide access to the cloud or access to those, whether it's public or otherwise. So those upgrades need to be put in place, and that's where I think we're waiting on some of those server upgrades. The rest of it, in terms of being able to access, whether it's email or other things from your home or otherwise, that will simply happen through your usual internet service provider.
So is it public cloud or not public cloud?
It's still public. It's still a public cloud, but you're in terms of enabling that infrastructure to be more secure. Because right now, I think some of the switches and some of the equipment in place is obsolete and it requires an update.
Okay.
If we understand correctly, it's not the actual hardware of the storage space that's being replaced. It's the infrastructure for the gateways and the network. Is that
correct? Yes, that's right.
Okay, and that has been on back order for 9 months?
It's my understanding that it hasn't been put in place, or it isn't implemented yet. That's correct.
Okay, any other questions from members of council? I know I'm probably the only one out here, but I always have problems with searches, and I've talked to Bridget about it, and Bridget, you've sent back a good response. Thank you very much. I don't know what it is. I do a search for something, whether it's on my phone or whether it's a computer I've been trying here. I get pages and pages of results and they don't apply. You do the search and you get 2 results back. So I don't know. I don't know what the issue is. I just tried something else. I tried noise bylaw. If I did a search for noise bylaw, I got, 142 responses, and the very first one is a PDF document that says the township does not have a noise bylaw. But I struggle because I don't see anything in here that's specifically going to address search, and we can do all these wonderful things to the website, but if people can't find it, it doesn't have much value. So did you take a look at all with regards to the search as part of your analysis, Sean or Vivek?
Yeah,
Sorry,
I
go
can, I believe we did look at that, and sort of later on in the roadmap, there's a proposed program of improvements really to the website, and I think that includes addressing those issues around search.
I saw that, but it's over a year away. So I guess my question, I would think search functionality being as important as it is for the user experience of which we're trying to improve, I guess, why would something such as that be pushed off for a year, given its importance to addressing citizens being able to find what they're looking for?
Yeah, the prioritization was an exercise that we went through collaboratively, and I think some of the things that emerged were that replacing, for example, Keystone was really a very critical and high impact thing that had to get done that affects all aspects of your operations. And so the other things sort of got moved back in the timeline.
But moved back because of costing, moved back because of staffing resources? Why would it be moved back?
Yeah, the resourcing. Yeah, the resources really.
Okay, so our website is done outside with another firm, so I don't, go ahead, Bridget.
Thank you, Mayor McFadden, through you to answer your question. And I think I did kind of provide a pretty detailed response to your question this morning. Mm-hmm. So if you want, I can go through it. With respect to this particular review, we were looking more at the infrastructure behind the website. It's kind of behind the website. The website is a component, but it's not the most important component, but it is the vehicle where some services are delivered. So we were looking at things like online payments and looking at their accounts. These were all things that were not available to our residents because of Keystone. So at the heart of our issues or our roadblocks in providing a truly end-to-end e-commerce relationship to our residents was Keystone. The search engine is a separate function, and you and I have had conversations about that. We do see that as being something that can be audited as part of the customer journey, which I recognize is a couple of years down the road. Having said that, we are implementing file hold. And I believe when it comes to very specific searches that you're referring to and the level of research that you're doing, I think that might support that type of a search. We have Cluedo that powers the search engine. I can certainly go through with you in detail on some of the actions that I've been taking to improve the online search if you want, or I can provide it to council separately, but we are reviewing what searches are being done on the website. If we're finding that people are looking for stuff that they're not finding, then we look at creating a landing page where we collect all that information, we tag it appropriately, and we put it as a feature box on the website, and we push it out through social media. I think in the example I gave you was the Christmas decoration disposal guide. That was a hot item. So after Christmas, people wanted to know what they could do with their Christmas trees. I was seeing all kinds of searches for that particular item. We didn't have content on our website for that particular item. So we created a landing page, put all that information in there. We put a link to the County Council portal for how do you get rid of this? How do you get rid of light bulbs? How do you get rid of this? We posted it, we blasted it out on social media, and we found that very successful. You know, it changes week to week. So, you know, this week people are looking at ATV, building permits, conservation, noxious weeds, and agenda minutes. So we try and respond to what they're looking for. Your particular type of search, or the search that you're doing and that represents, is a very unique search. It's very detailed. File hold, I believe the clerk's department is looking to implement file hold as part of a council document search, in which case because it's a records management system, it will probably be a little more robust than what we have as part of our search on the website. So in that sense, I think we'll hopefully be able to address your concerns a little bit more immediately than the 2022 timeframe that's been identified in the report. What's identified in the report is looking at the whole customer journey. And if it comes up again that the search engine is another issue, then obviously it's going to be addressed.
I guess my issue is back, so having started in 2010 and seeing what we inherited in 2010, when we moved to eSolutions, it was going to fix all of this. So now to be told we're going to wait for file hold, do we have an example of a municipality that's using file hold and has the comprehensive searches that I've asked for that can go there? Because I guess my frustration is I just expect better out of the solution that we have. If you go to the county website, they have that integrated search. They use Civic Web. So is it time to take a look? Because that is ultimately what this is about, is the customer experience. If it's not going to provide what we need, are we guaranteed file hold is going to do what we need? Because if not, then maybe we should be looking elsewhere. Brian, Councillor Huntley.
Through you, Mayor, I personally, what I see is kind of a bit of an issue with the searches is that like all of our minutes and all of our agendas and all that are actually posted in PDF format, right? So the searches can't get into a PDF document and see what they're about unless those PDF documents are posted with meta tags in behind them, right? So as you search, it's only it can't traverse those PDFs to find what it is you're looking for. I think that's where the root of a lot of these problems are coming from.
I would disagree in that I understand what you're saying, but if those are all OCR'd, which they are, they're searchable, because if you go to Peterborough County Civic Web, if I put in my search and I can get it down, it brings back the actual documents. So I understand what you mean I do understand what you mean with regards to the meta tags, etc. But the bare bones, they are there within the PDFs. Josiah?
So I can't actually speak to file hold specifically. I can let the clerk's department speak to that one, how robust that search engine is, Mayor McFadden. But what I can say is, having had these conversations with you, I have created a crawler within the search engine. Now that with the launch of the new website, our agendas and reports that are attached to it, Councillor Huntley, you're correct, they were individual PDFs. The search engine will search a PDF, but if it only sees a search phrase once, then it's probably not going to index under that specific search phrase. It wants to see it in the title, it wants to see it in the file name, yada, yada, yada. So when we transition to the new site, it allows us to create an HTML version of the agenda, and it allows us to have links to each of the individual reports. So what I've started doing with council meetings is I'm throwing the actual agenda into the crawler, as well as the individual results. So being those reports. So I'm hoping that those will get indexed individually and provide a better search.
I think the issue is, Bridget, you're doing an incredible job But as far as I'm concerned, you're doing the job that the technology provider should be providing, because all of these steps that you're doing, you are going above and beyond what the expectation of. You are becoming a Google search engine yourself. But at the county, there is absolutely no way they're going to this extent in order to provide the search responses back through Civic Web. They don't do it. They don't. They wouldn't have the individual like yourself that's investing all of this time into the customer experience. And I appreciate it. I'm not taking anything away from it, Bridget. You're doing a fantastic job, but it's a lot of work. And for you to stay on top of what people are searching for and creating all that stuff is a lot of work. But somehow the county is able to provide back better search results, and they're not doing all of this. So it's certainly not a question of what you're doing. It's more a question of the service provider. That's where my concern lies.
So thank you. That's good to hear. And I think that it probably would be addressed through FileHold. I think if you use the general search engine that the county has, because theirs is Cluedo, the same as ours, I think you'd probably run into the same problems. So my understanding is that FileHold is kind of a comparable to Civic Web. So I believe that it will provide a little bit more comprehensive search. If it doesn't, then obviously we have to look at how to fix that.
All right. Any further questions from members of council? If not, then we're just going to receive this because with all that under our belt, Bridget, you still have a report ahead of you. Thank you very much, Sean and Vivek. Stay tuned. We will get into the report, and Bridget will take to the stand, and you guys will be there to provide support. So, motion to receive that presentation. Councillor Moore, Councillor Belch, Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Moore,
Yeah.
Sorry.
There you go.
Yes.
thank you. Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is approved. Thank you, Sean and Vivek. Hold tight. We'll see you shortly. There is no delegations. Minutes of the regular council meeting held December 21st, 2020. Motion to adopt those minutes. We have Deputy Mayor Graham and Councillor Belch. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is approved. There are no minutes from committees and boards, so we will move into section 11 under reports. 11.1, report Economic Development 2021-01, website and IT service delivery and modernization review. Ms. Aya.
Thank you, Mayor McFadden. Thank you, Council. The report before Council is ECD 2021-01, website and IT service delivery and modernization review, with the following two recommendations. One, that Council receive the report for information, and that two, that Council consider the MNP recommendations to be included in the proposed budget as part of the 2021 budget review process.
Questions from members of council? Councillor Huntley?
Through you, Chair, to Ms. Ayyett. I was trying to track this back to the budget that was presented to us on the 10th. Is there anything new in this, but like in this report that wasn't in on the 10th?
So yes, through you, Mayor McFadden, to Councillor Huntley, there are 3 new requests from that particular budget presentation. One is the $25,000 to create the detailed infrastructure upgrade and disaster recovery plan. And there's also, as part of the strengthening governance framework, there are 2 items: to establish a software selection and procurement process at $8,000, and to develop an IT handbook also at $8,000. Those are 2 new items. There is another item that is being requested. I can let Kimberly kind of speak to a future budget request, but I believe the cybersecurity testing that we were talking about when MNP was making their presentation, that is to be considered for the 2022 budget.
Okay. As part of this, I would really like to be kept up to date, given that, for example, the infrastructure already slipped an entire year. I'd really like to be kept up to date if we're not going to be able to follow the implementation plan. If it's following along and everything's great, then that's fine. But if it's slipping, I'm not looking forward to a report in a year's time that we haven't done anything yet because we're still waiting on backlogged infrastructure.
Sure. Through you, Mayor McFadden, would you like a quarterly update, or how would you like to see that?
Myself personally, if we're following along on the implementation plan, I don't need the details. That's wonderful. It's the work plan that's going. I think if we recognize that there's going to be a slippage and we're not going to be able to maintain that, maybe just an update to council. I'm not looking for a long report, but just there's no surprises in a year's time.
Sure.
Yeah, Councillor Huntley.
And through you, Mayor, kind of to reiterate what I'd said before, is I think it'd be important to see what the offsetting costs are as well, right? Like
Yes.
We're getting rid of Keystone, then what's the difference between Keystone and City Hall and that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Okay. No other questions? Excellent. Motion then to receive the report and accept the recommendations. Councillor Huntley, Deputy Mayor Graham, Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Belch. Lost Councillor Belch. Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is approved. We will welcome back Councillor Huntley when he returns.
I'm here.
Oh, Councillor Huntley, Councillor Belch, sorry. Yes, Councillor Huntley is here. Okay, moving along then, item 11.2, report planning 2021-01, Molly severance application B-83-20.
Mayor McFadden, members of Council, Planning Report 2021-01 is before you today with the following recommendations. Firstly, that the Township of Cavan-Monaghan support severance application B-83-20 because it conforms to the Township of Cavan-Monaghan official plan. Secondly, that the completed municipal appraisal form be forwarded to the Peterborough County Land Division Department. And thirdly, that the following conditions of approval be applied to application B-83-20. Number one, the payment of $1,200 cash in lieu of parkland to the township. Number two, the completion of a rezoning or minor variance for the retained parcel to the satisfaction of the township. And thirdly, that an agreement is to be entered into between the owner and the municipality and registered on title at the applicant's expense to recognize the general mitigation measures outlined in section 7.2 of the Natural Heritage Evaluation prepared by Beacon Environmental dated November 2020.
Very good. Questions from members of council? Just a question with regards to, sorry, I'm just trying to flip to it. There was no comments from Orca. In this particular capacity, are they a commenting agency?
Through you, Mayor McFadden, to members of council, yes, Orca is a commenting agency and they will send their comments directly to Peterborough County Land Division.
Okay, all right, very good. So your comments that you made relative to, and I apologize, I'm still trying to find the report in my binder. You made comments relative to the environment. There was 3 cases relative to requesting further studies potentially in rezoning of other parts, I believe, of the retained component. Does that fall under what they would be commenting on, or is that our responsibility?
Through you, Mayor McFadden, to members of council, a planning approval is required to recognize the lot area of the retained parcel. We will be looking for direction from the Conservation Authority in terms of whether we should be recognizing the natural heritage features as mapped by the Natural Heritage Evaluation prepared by Beacon. If they believe we should recognize them in the zoning, then that will lead us to a rezoning path. If it's really not a make it or break it thing that they be recognized in the zoning bylaw, we will proceed with a minor variance because it really is a lot area issue.
Okay, very good.
So that's why it's a little bit open-ended, because we are looking to firm up what is the best course of action. Having said all of that, we have firmed up in staff's mind that if we do proceed with a minor variance to recognize the lot area question, when we do a housekeeping amendment for the comprehensive zoning bylaw, we would flag this and look at identifying the natural heritage features in the zoning, because that document is a public document. It's very apparent then where the natural features are, etc. So.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Welcome back, Councillor Belch. Any other questions with regards to this report? If not, then a motion to receive the report and accept the recommendation. Deputy Mayor Graham, Councillor Moore, Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Mute, Councillor Belch. Or I don't mean mute, unmute.
There we go. Yes.
thank you. Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is approved. Thank you very much, Ms. Ellis.
you.
Our next report, 11.3, Report Planning 2021-02, Year-End Activity Report, Building Economic Development and Planning. Mr. Conley.
Your worship to council, you have before you Planning Report 2021-02, Year-End Activity Report, again, Building Economic Development and Planning. The recommendation being that council receive Report Planning 2021-02, lots of twos, Year-End Activity Report for the Building Economic Development and Planning and for information. If I want to highlight here, we have a couple things of particular note. On the economic development planning side, we have year over year. For planning applications, we have 35 this year versus 25 in 2019. Land use inquiries up significantly to 339 from 272. Legal requests are down a little bit from 67 to 54, but then preliminary severance reviews are up 24 to 24 from 18. The one thing I'd like to note is, although this year when we budgeted, we'd have $200,000 in terms of building permit value, we actually achieved 456,000 and change, slightly less than 2019 of 521 and change, but still good performance year over year based on what we understood to be the activity, or what we predicted the activity would be versus what we actually had. So if you have any questions, or council have any questions, more than happy to answer. And I have Kyle Phillips and Bridget can answer any questions as well if it needs a deeper dive.
Very good. Thank you very much, Mr. Conley. Questions from members of council? It'll be interesting to see how these numbers transpose over into 2021 in light of everything that's going on and in light of the current situation relative to development in the township. If there's no questions, then motion then to receive that report. Thank you very much, Mr. Conley. Deputy Mayor Graham, Councillor Huntley, Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is approved. Thank you, Mr. Conley. Next report. Our fire chief has been waiting patiently. Oh, this isn't the report. It's still to come. Report Fire Public Works 2021-01 Township of Kabamonagan Vehicles. This is a joint report between Chief Balfour, Mr. Hancock, and Ms. Pope.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. The report number Fire Department 2021-01 in regards to the Township of Kabamonagan vehicles. The recommendation today is that Council receives Township of Kabamonagan's vehicles report 2020-01 for all municipal vehicles for information and further consideration in the 2021 budget process. And I would just like to, it's an error on my part. It's a minor one, but in one of the charts in regards to the fire department for tanker 1, the replacement year is noted as 2028 and it should have been 2021. It doesn't make, and it's not reflective on any of the financial numbers. It's just the year replacement is a typo. The 8 should have been a 1.
Very good. Questions from members of council for the chief or Mr. Hancock or Ms. Pope? Councillor Huntley.
Through you, Chair, and I wanted to thank everybody who put this report together. I know I kind of was the one that was harping on it not being available at the last meeting, and I really appreciate the work that went into it. I think it paints a great picture for us as council to see the state of our fleet and know kind of where the pain points are and kind of have an idea of, you know, where we stand with a lot of this stuff. And I guess the only comment I really have other than that is I did notice that I think it's a lot of the pickup trucks, I guess they're in the Public Works Department. The replacement cost seems to be almost double what the current value of them or the original purchase value of them are. And I'm just, you know, wondering, are we kind of shooting a little high on what we're looking to purchase, and you know, or we could be a little bit more Scroogey, I guess is the right term, in terms of, you know, projecting what we're going to be looking for in the future.
I think, Mr. Mayor, through you to Councillor Huntley, the index future cost replacement there, I think in the half tons, it shows, I think for the first two on the charts, 50,000, and then the one Ford is a 3/4 ton, it's at 70. So if you go to the marketplace, generally, I think 50,000, I would say is a reasonable number, and you may be able to get something less, maybe 40, but most pickups that I've seen in the marketplace as we go forward, and these are not up for replacement. You know, the 08 is up for replacement, but the others are not immediate. So we would typically call a tender or a quotation on them anyhow, and we would go back to council with the best price we could get. So they are our numbers coming forward. I wouldn't suggest adjusting them. I would let them go to the marketplace and let them tell us where the market is and come back to you with a report on it.
Okay.
Very good. Further questions from members of council? Very good. Thank you for that report. Motion then to receive that report. Councillor Huntley, Deputy Mayor Graham. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is approved. Thanks again for that report. Our next report, which is the one that the chief was waiting for, is a report Fire Station Design Station 1 Replacement. Floor is yours, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The report before council today is Fire Department Report 2021-02, Fire Station Design and Station 1 Replacement. The recommendation is that council approve Greenview Environmental Management Limited's proposal in the amount of $116,600 plus municipal HST in the amount of $2,052.16 for a total of $118,652.16 to be allocated to the 2021 capital budget to secure the location and design for a new fire station. And just for some background, since the writing of the report, we did have a meeting. The report indicates that we were to have a meeting with the county. The CAO and myself did have that meeting last Friday in regards to the inclusion or the possibility of inclusion of an ambulance bay in this design. The meeting was very productive, and and should the report be accepted, the CAO for the county and Chief Randy Mellos for the ambulance will bring a report forward to the county council for February for direction. The second point I'd like to bring up today is the proposal is this proposal that's before council today for consideration. The tender will take the project from design right through to tender ready documents. The other point in the report, as noted in the report, is the fact that we're asking to sole source this project, and that's based on a few items, one of them being that Greenview is currently working for the township for two other buildings for the roads department, and as well the Trent Lakes design that we had discussed previously in 2015 or 2016 Greenview has that design and was the designer of that building. And thirdly, Greenview has indicated to our director of roads that by combining all the projects at once, there's a potential to save upwards of 10% on all the projects. So based on that, we're bringing forward this proposal for council's consideration through Greenview Environmental Management Limited.
Very good. Questions from members of council? Councillor Moore?
Through you, Chair. Chief, I look at this and I see it like it's a guaranteed job for these people. And we don't know what the 10% savings is because we have nothing to compare it to. Like there's only one person or one company giving us an estimate. How can we know that we're saving 10% off anything?
And
like, just a question, I'm not trying to be nasty here. It's just
nope.
that design to build to me is kind of, without a tender, is kind of risky.
Just for clarification through the mayor to Councillor Moore, the 10% is not on the design. The 10% is on the construction cost. And this is not, right now we're at the design phase and get the project ready for design and tender ready documents, not the building portion of it, because we have to see what those costs are going to be to build these buildings that we're talking about as a whole organization, including the roads. Okay. So, and it is an excellent question of, are we getting the best bang for the design? And I did review the last time we did an RFP in the exercise for the fire station design, and the quotes ranged anywhere from 190,000 down as low as there was, I think, 80,000, and the 80s were not accepted because they weren't giving us all the things that we had required in the RFP. So if you look at the number that we have in front of us today, it's on par with what we got then. So putting aside the cost of living, we're right on target where we were back in, I believe it was 2016 for a design.
I see that and I understand that. I just think in 5 years, it seems like, I don't know. I just find it questionable. I'm not questioning you.
I understand.
I just, I have a hard time with just one company, that's all. And I know probably everybody else is probably thinking I'm crazy, but.
Just for clarification though, Chief, what we're single sourcing though is the design component of it. That's it.
Yes.
The design, that's absolutely correct, Mr. Mayor and Councillor Moore. It's the design, and keeping in mind, and just to reiterate, I believe, staff believes that the direction that we were given is that we liked the Trent Lakes design and we liked, sort of the cost that it came into, not that we can guarantee what those costs are, but that we were happy with that. If we like that design, Greenview is the owner of those designs. So if we want to, I believe we'd be further ahead instead of starting from scratch with a different company to get us to the same point as Greenview. And secondly, if they're already working for the township with the roads department, and we're going to, if it's advantageous, these are decisions that haven't been made yet, but we have one company that's putting the total package together for a tender to tender them to see. We've been told, or we've been, advised that there's upwards of 10% tendering them all together. Then if we have two different companies, are we going to arrive at the same end point? I don't.
So I guess, again, just for clarification, Chief, the other two projects that you're referring to both fall under within Public Works, and Mr. Hancock has already gone through this process to retain Greenview for those two specific projects. So what you're looking at doing is, given that we're doing a third one, is to dovetail off that one that's already gone through that process to say a third one's going to make more sense, because collaboratively to put them all out to tender at the same time with one company managing it, we're further ahead than having 3 significant infrastructure projects with 2 different companies trying to go through the tendering, I think is in essence what you're doing.
That is correct.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Graham.
Thank you. And through you, Mayor, to the chief. Just with my question was with regards to the timeline. I see in the end of the report there's talk of the intent to be completed within the next 6 months. I'm assuming that seems like a fairly short horizon, and I think your previous comment about the fact that we sort of have some idea of a design that we would be that would be to our liking is probably a part of that efficiency. I was just wondered with regards to the location itself, is there an understanding, because I know this is going to be something of specific interest to the public as to the location of the new site when that's decided, how long is that analysis expected to take? And obviously, given the current provincial lockdown that we're existing in, is the 6 months still a feasible timeline?
Through the mayor to the deputy mayor, it's an excellent question. It's an aggressive timeline. There's a number of things, as the report speaks to, that have to be fleshed out further. But step one is we need a designer to be able to, go through that. There's a number of things, geotechnical and space requirements, etc. But we've been asked and told that we wanted an aggressive approach, so we're going to try our best. It's a fair comment. We'll see how it shakes out, but we need a timeline to work towards, and we've set a goal, and we'll work towards it, and we'll hopefully hit it. But I appreciate your comments, and I think everyone's aware of what we're working through right now with the pandemic, but we're going to try our best. And the other comment that I just like to is in regards to the site that we were, directed that we try to utilize township properties if we can, but recognizing that we need to find the best overall site. And as the report says, there's a number of things that factor into that. So we want to just make sure, and we've identified in the report, in the attachments, the sites, and we need to flesh them out and make sure that we get the best ones that serve the residents for their insurance, response times, and financially.
Thanks, Chief.
Very good. Further questions? Councillor Moore.
Through your chair to Chief. Just a question, like, I know you went through this process approximately 5 years ago, but since then, there's been a lot of green advancements. Would we be involved or looking into any of that? Like, that would save on hydro, even with the type of windows, etc.?
Through the mayor to Councillor Moore, it's an excellent question. And in the last report, there was discussion around the LEEDs certification, and
Yes.
we're going to make sure that the current building code has a number of items that ensures energy savings and efficiencies, and I believe that any new building that you see is going to be much more well, in fact, I know it's going to be a lot 100% more efficient than the current building that you have. But we're going to work with that in mind. However, there's nothing in this report or in the proposal of talking about obtaining a LEEDs designation. It's important. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. The energy efficiency is of the utmost importance, and we'll keep that in mind and carrying through with our team here. The team being, the fire department, as well as the building and planning department, to ensure that we get the most energy efficient building that we can at the most cost effective. Okay. But to achieve a LEEDs building, to get a paper at the end of the day, I don't think you're going to be that LEEDs designation versus what the costs, and we're better off to put that into the design of the building and the final product, and then make sure that it's as energy efficient as it can be. I
Good.
hope
We
that
did-
answers your question.
And we did that same approach on the community center. It's not LEED certified, but it certainly has all of everything that's the principles of LEEDs. But to answer your question, Councillor Moore, on page 149, the very last point of the understanding of the project objectives, I think they've covered it off pretty well. Design is to generally follow the principles of LEED, including site planning, water conservation management, energy management, sustainable material use, and indoor environmental quality. Formal LEED certification review or compliance is not required. So I think that's what you were referring to, Councillor Moore.
Yes, it is.
Okay, good.
Yes. And I did read that. It's just that's why I'm questioning if we shouldn't have more than one person come up with an estimate. But maybe if everybody else is happy with it and feel comfortable and that they believe they're going to save money through this company, then that's fine. It's just I've always thought you shouldn't put all your apples in one basket, but that's just my way of doing things.
I do have a question. It was mentioned earlier that there's going to be a county report in February if the township is to approve this for the discussion relative to an ambulance bay. But I don't see anything in the recommendations, and I don't see anything specifically in the report that suggests that we're considering one, other than the statements that indicate that it's not necessary at this time. So I'm wondering, thinking down the road to that county staff report, if they're looking for us to provide some sort of direction that we're considering that, do we need something further in this recommendation?
So through the mayor, what we're saying here is staff's under the understanding that there's to be consideration given to an ambulance bay in this design. And if that's what we're working off of, if what we're saying that we're not, then we can take the ambulance bay out. But as we work through this process with Greenview, that's a good discussion point, is are we to continue working through with incorporating an ambulance space for an ambulance in this design?
No, I agree. The report coming forward at the county is if this passes, then they're going to have a conversation with regards to putting an ambulance space on it. But there's nothing, I don't see anything in here that provides that direction that council is considering an ambulance bay. That's my only concern. I think you have received the direction to consider it, but I don't see anything in this report. So a county councillor that reads this report, all they're going to read is that while County City Paramedics Master Plan does not envision an ambulance base to be located in Cabamonaghan at this time, as the plan was a service-wide demand review of the entire county. County and township staff will continue to monitor the data, and should changes in call ambulance volumes warrant the need for a base to be considered in our township, any proposed design should accommodate an ambulance. However, should the need for fire services to expand based on service demands, it would require additional footage being added to the building as well. Further discussions with the county are planned for January 15th, 2021. So is there an update that the county's interested in us providing direction that we're interested in considering an ambulance bay, or you're saying it's already there?
So the discussions that we had in Friday, sorry, I'm just getting a bit of feedback. Okay.
I see Ms. Hurley jumped in there. Do you want to? Okay. Phone a friend, Ms. Hurley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would suggest, just for clarification and ensure that we have everything in place for the county to either support or move forward with an ambulance bay consideration in the design for ours, I would say put a motion on the table that we ensure that we consider, we reach out to the county and we consider including an ambulance bay at the new design, or the new station, Station 1.
Okay, I think that captured it. Councillor Moore.
Yes, through your chair. Everybody's saying ambulance bay. One bay won't cut it, because we're looking at something that's supposed to last us the next 30 years, right? Or 40 years, whatever. We need more than one bay. We need some place for these people to sit. For example, like one ambulance right now might be fine. But as we're growing, and we are growing, one bay is not not appropriate. We need at least a couple.
I think with my understanding, okay, Ms. Hurley, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, through Councillor Moore, I think what we're getting stuck in the word bay, and I think I said it myself, so I apologize for that. I think what we're looking at is to incorporate an ambulance depot here at the new fire station. Those conversations, we did have those conversations on Friday, the chief and I, with the County of Peterborough, and we are looking for the future of not only fire, but ambulance services within our area. So if that equates to what those details are, we're not sure. They actually have not been in a position yet without going to the County of Peterborough, of course, and getting endorsement of having these conversations. But we will be looking for the future, and that is whether it's 1 bay, 2 bay, or whatever those conditions are, they would be, with your approval, we would incorporate what those conditions are in the new design.
Okay, thank you. Because even the cost value, it's much cheaper to do it now than it would be to try add on in 5 or 10 years time. Actually, we would look stupid to the public if we tried to add on in 5 years time. So I think it's something we have to make sure we're talking about.
Very good. My only other question, Chief, with regards to your recommendation is that you want a total of $118,652.16 to be allocated in the 2021 capital budget, but we've already allocated a majority of it. So are we not just, there's a large portion's already been approved. Are we not just allocating an additional $34,652.16?
I believe, and I'll stand. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I'm getting some feedback. It's an excellent question, Mr. Mayor, and I believe, and Kimberly can correct me if I'm wrong, she's just, it's an accounting that she's got to show the total amount being expensed in 2021. I hope I'm using the right terminology here for finance, but you are correct. When you read down in the financial section of this report, the ask is for 34,000 and some change, because we had 84,000 identified previously for this design.
Correct. Very good. Questions from members of council? If not, okay. So we've got the recommendation before us. Ms. Pope, you're comfortable with that allocation versus the new monies? Does there need to be any specific delegation of between the two different amounts, or is it fine? In other words, we're not allocated 118,000 because we've already allocated a large chunk of it.
That's correct. We're only doing the incremental difference of the 34.
Does that need to be in the motion?
It can be. It'll further support the budget documents we have coming forward on Thursday as well.
Okay, very good. So there's that component, and then there's the piece that Yvette added specifically to provide the direction for the consideration by the county in that February meeting. I'd like a motion that captures both of those items. Ms. Arthurs, how are you making out?
Mr. Mayor, the initial motion, I would seek some direction from Kimberly with regards to the specific wording on that 34,000 and change. With the second portion of the motion, I've just included that staff be directed to communicate with the County of Peterborough to discuss including ambulance services within the construction of a new fire station.
Okay. Ms. Pope? And then I got you, Councillor Huntley. Go ahead, Ms. Pope.
Thank you. So Alana, under the protective services capital budget, we have 118,652, which does match the report. We are doing a 2020 rollover at 84,000 that council is already aware of. So the net additional ask on this budget is $34,652.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. Pope, specifically within this motion, is there somewhere that makes sense to include that, just to tack it on to the end, that the specific ask for 2021 is $34,652? I just want to make sure I have the wording right for you.
Sure. Yeah, the portion in the financial impact where it identifies the 34,652.16 is the additional ask. So that particular line there to be added to the 2021 capital budget.
Okay, I'll include the wording from the report right in the recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, very good. Councillor Huntley.
Through you, Chair, just for clarification's sake, are we making a motion to put this in the 2021 budget or put it in the budget for consideration in context with all of the rest of the budget items that are coming forward? Just, are we making a commitment at this moment, or are we just putting it in the report to consider it when we get the budget later in the week. I guess for clarity, are we committing to this at this moment, or do we get to commit to it when we see the budget all together as one?
Mr. Mayor, are you looking for me to answer?
I was looking to Kimberly, but if but you could, and nobody turned their audio on or video on, they left you out here, Chief. It's all up to
That's
you.
okay. I'm asking today. I have no problem. And that's what we're asking for, is the commitment today, where we've been asked to move this project along. And we are asking for this commitment today. And that it be included in the 2021 capital budget.
So does this fall into the same category, sorry, Mayor, as kind of a budget pre-approval then? Is that what we're doing?
The answer is yes, Chief.
Yes. I thought he asked you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, it's pre-approval and the budget's Thursday. That's correct.
So to Alana, I mean, should we probably indicate that it's a pre-approval in here then? In the motion? I think that's how we typically handle it in the past, is we've always to pre-approve this item in the budget.
Great, Councillor Huntley. Ms. Pope, do you have a specific requirement?
Thank you, Alana. Through Councillor Huntley to Council, whenever Council does approve a report independent from the budget, you are in essence pre-approving, and then it locks it into any future budget discussions. This particular recommendation is asking to approve the proposal and to move forward. So it would be a pre-approval. When it's presented at the time of budget, I do indicate that just for clarification purposes, because you are looking at a number of budget items at that time. However, in individual reports, it can say either way, because once this is approved, whether it's before or after budget approval, it's approved by council, locked in, and staff are beginning to move forward. So either language would be fine in this particular report. You see pre-approval normally with the budget because you're dealing with so many different capital items. We're trying to identify which ones you are setting in place in advance of a final approval.
So the short answer is it should say pre-approval, just to be consistent. Does that satisfy Councillor Huntley?
It would, yeah.
Yeah, okay, very good. Ms. Hurley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just going to say, if you wish to put, it doesn't have to be, but if you wish to put pre-approval and Councillor Huntley is happy with having that identified in the motion, we can certainly do it. I think what Ms. Pope was saying, when we bring your budget report forward, which we've certainly been looking at for the last few days, we would identify that it was pre-approved along with the other items that we have pre-approved before as well. But you can, either way is fine, Council.
Very good. I think it may assist in any discussions at the public budget meeting on Thursday night if individuals are trying to convince council that they should be approving to move ahead with a fire hall. If we've pre-approved it, it's not a matter of discussion because it's already been pre-approved prior to that budget discussion anyways. Okay, Madam Clerk, then you're clear. We're just going to add in the amount there that it's being pre-approved, but the actual amount that's being pre-approved is just that $34,652.16 because the other amount has already been approved.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Any other questions from members of council? We've just completely rewritten the entire recommendation. Sorry about that, Chief, but I think we got to where you want to go.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. That's we got to where we needed to be.
Excellent. All right, I need a mover. Councillor Huntley and second, Councillor Moore. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Huntley.
Yes.
Councillor Belch.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham.
Yes.
Councillor Moore.
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is approved. Any closing words, Chief?
Just thank you, and I look forward to closing in on that 6 months. We'll try our best, and I look forward to bringing back a plan that's palatable to council and the public and the fire department. Thank you.
Excellent. Very good. Thank you, Chief.
Our next. You don't make it 6 months, then you got to wait another 4 years.
I can hear Chief Belfour laughing over the wall all the way through, I think, Alana's speaker. Okay, our next report is 11.6, Report Corporate Services 2021-01, BIA and Cavan-Monaghan Library Board Appointments. Ms. Arthurs.
Recommendation is that council approve the BIA Board of Management
Whoa.
and Cavan-Monaghan Library Board recruit for and provide recommended appointments of members when a vacancy occurs during the term to be considered by the council of the Township of Cavan-Monaghan, and that this process be in place for the next term of council.
Very good. Questions from members of council? Deputy Mayor Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. And through you, just a question with regards to just some clarity with regards to a couple of the components in the report. When I read the overview of the staff component of the report, it talks about and sort of references the application or the involvement of the board in replacing members. But when I go through the report and in the attachments, they talk of one of the things that's included is a library board policy that really speaks to far beyond the simple replacement of, or at least it seems to, in my understanding or interpretation, refers to more of a total board construction process that sort of is much different to the one that exists now versus referring to a simple replacement of appointees process. So if, I understand that, I think there's some value in potentially efficiently, replacing, vacancies that come about during the term of council, but I don't feel comfortable with the policy that is included here from the library that refers to their sort of preliminary vetting and elimination of candidates for a council appointed position. So I was looking for some insights as to how, if we should be providing feedback to this policy that, I'm sure the library has the independence to put forward whatever policies they want as a board, but if the board policies are inconsistent with the formation of a committee of council, how does that work?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I did indicate that it was specific just for the vacancies during the term, and staff felt it was important that council did have the ability to create and make the appointments for the initial board. The submission from the library was a policy that they had drafted, although I did indicate that staff would go back and work specifically with the library to modify that policy based on the conversation today and the direction of council. So if council supports staff's recommendation to go forward with just taking care of the vacancies, allowing them to take care of the vacancies or provide recommendation and do the recruitment for the vacancies during the term of council, we would go back and communicate that with the library and try to work with them to draft that policy or make revisions to that policy where it's appropriate. So council would still have the ability to appoint the board in the very beginning of your term of council as we do currently.
So just to be clear then, Mayor, through you, that the approval of the recommendations as such are not an endorsement of the policy put forward, and that staff will continue to work with the appropriate, nature of that policy. Is that just for clarity?
That's staff's intention, to go back then to the library to indicate that the motion of council is specific just for the vacancies during the term of council, and we would help them draft the policy. If they wish to come back and present something to council as an alternative, that's up to them. But the intent would be to go back and ask them to revise the policy accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Huntley?
Through you, Chair, to Ms. Arthurs, who would finance the recruiting? Obviously, there's advertisements and things that are put in place to recruit new members. Is the township still going to foot the bill for that?
Again, the intent of staff would be to go back to those two organizations and indicate if they wish to do the recruitment on their own, that would be a cost incurred by the library or the BIA. Currently, we do put an ad in the Millbrook Times. I know there's interest that they do the recruitment on their own, so I would suggest that the cost to do so would be borne by those two boards.
Okay. Question with regards to some of the acts upon which the people are submitting their names. So for example, the last term of council, when people put their names in to apply for positions, and I know we're just talking about intermediate or in between, so not at the beginning, But when people submit their names, there's a level of confidence that they are expecting there, whereby it's going to be reviewed in closed session by council. So what is going to have to change? Because quite frankly, we don't have control over the library or their privacy policies or any of that because they operate outside of our jurisdiction. But essentially, we are fulfilling our requirement under the Library Act, I believe, to appoint members to the board. However, we're giving access to those names to entities outside of the council. How does that work with regards to freedom of information?
You are correct. They still do have a requirement. I mean, we have the MFIPA, which is your Municipal Freedom of Information Privacy Act. There also is FIPA, which applies to anything outside of the municipality. So they still would have requirements to keep that information confidential. Again, we could work with them through their policy to make sure we indicate on our form, that the information will be used solely for the purpose it's being requested for. So we could work with them to help them create something like that. But they would be responsible to ensure the privacy as they're collecting that data.
Okay, did I see other hands up? What I'd be looking for is obviously I think there's more to it. So it's one thing to direct staff in order to work with them to come back with a policy, but I would like to see that policy come back to us as opposed to them implementing a policy. So I think anything that comes out of this, I would like to see come back so that everybody is perfectly clear on what it is that is being agreed to as far as the selection of the members.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, it might be better to have staff draft a policy on our end that gives them the authority as opposed to trying to approve the library board policies specifically.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have no control over their library policy. I'm more interested in our policy because ultimately that's going to have to be adopted. And to Deputy Mayor Graham's point, that they can have whatever policy they want, but ultimately this falls under our purview of responsibilities. So it's their responsibility to ensure that their policy is in line with what it is that we're passing.
And I'll just add, Mr. Mayor, these came in as a request from both of these organizations. So if council is not comfortable with it, we're happy to continue to do the recruitment. We're just bringing this forward as it was a request from both the BIA and the library board.
And I think a lot of this, both organizations can already recruit. There's nothing that says they can't put in an advertisement. They don't need our permission to do so independently if they wish to put it out that they've got vacancies on their board. I don't have any issues with any of that. I don't think they need our permission to do so. And they can not only talk amongst themselves or put it on social media, but also put it in any print material. They don't need our permission. I think where it starts to get sticky is when their individual organizations are specifically picking the members. I think that's the part of the policy I think that council wants a little bit more opportunity to consider. Councillor Huntley?
Through you, Chair, I think, this is just kind of the tip of the iceberg, right? Like as we're talking about filling vacancies. But I know within the BIA board, I think there's some kind of loose interpretation from the Municipal Act on whether the BIA should be appointing its own members or whether council should even be involved at all. I think that's kind of where the roots of this are coming from. So I think, part of what we should be doing is kind of taking away, are we appointing BIA members? I can't speak specifically to the library because I'm not that familiar with it. But, on a BIA perspective, should we be letting the BIA select its own members based on how the Municipal Act is written, versus kind of what their, the wish and desire is. And I guess the question is, do we actually have a role to play under the Act today? Or have we just been doing it the way we've been doing it all along?
I think that raises a really good point, Councillor Huntley. I think maybe that might be the first step, is to bring back a report relative to those two organizations to understand what exactly our role is in designating the individuals that sit on those committees. And I can hear Deputy Mayor Graham reciting in his head right now, stay in your lane. So, if it's found out that that's not the lane we're supposed to be in, then by all means hand it off and write the appropriate policy. But I think I think we're further ahead to do that. And before we get considering handing off certain delegations that we may not have the authority to be handing off in the first place. Good point.
Yeah.
So with that, Councillor Huntley, what's your wonderful motion?
I would say that we should, have staff go back and review the various acts, I guess the Library Act and the Municipal Act, find out what our true role is in these appointments, from the formation of the board, let alone just the replacements.
Very good. Ms. Arthurs?
We'll draft that recommendation as opposed to the two that are there, and we'll come back with a report.
Yeah, I think we just need to seek clarity on our role.
Perfect, very good. Seconder? Deputy Mayor Graham. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is approved. Thank you, Ms. Arthurs. Our next item is 11.7, Report CAO 2021 Report and Capital Project Status. Ms. Hurley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The report is before you if council has any questions. Obviously, we will make some significant changes to this report at the next meeting or shortly after pertaining to the budget moving forward. But as of right now, those are the outstanding projects to report in.
Very good. Questions from members of council? Councillor Huntley.
I guess, Mayor, through you, on the going forward, I guess if this is getting revamped with the next round of capital projects, I think we should kind of flag ones that are carryovers from the year before, just so we know which ones are, kind of the lingering ones and which ones are the new ones, kind of differentiate them.
Ms. Hurley.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Councillor Huntley, we're happy to do that. That's not a problem.
Yeah, thank you.
So just on that thought, and I apologize, is the network infrastructure considered a capital investment? And if so, is it on this list? For the network infrastructure?
So the items that were discussed earlier today?
Yes.
No, so the report just went forward as of today. So we will amend our list after after today's meeting, obviously. We update it at every council meeting.
Yeah, no, sorry, I meant the network infrastructure that was approved a year ago.
It would be under, I think that came under Ms. Popes, I believe. Oh. Yeah, so I think what's our deputy clerk is highlighting the website and the IT modernization, but for you, Mr. Chairman, I believe you were speaking about the budget approval and our capital budget that didn't get completed this year, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So not all of our capital projects are identified on that. It's in our capital budget list and it was identified in our capital budget list. But next, if we want to ensure that it's on there, we can certainly make sure we do that in the next time we draft it after the budget is approved.
Okay, very good. And I know underneath the status, for example, file hold management software, it says ongoing, maybe something better than just ongoing. So we know that whether it's slipping or whether we have that timeline. If it's fitting, perfect. If it's off, then it's slipped.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman, we can modify this moving forward for sure.
Excellent. Any other questions? If not, then just a motion to receive that. Deputy Mayor Graham, Councillor Belch. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is approved. Council Committee verbal reports, item 11.8. Councillor Belch.
The Ganaraska committee is off until I think March.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Graham.
Nothing at this time.
Councillor Huntley.
Nothing other than, I'm not sure if it's on your meetings coming up, but the Orca AGM is this Thursday at 7 o'clock.
Very good. Councillor Moore.
Nothing at this time.
Okay. And that is all. Councillor Huntley and I are still working our way through the policing task force. So we did get feedback from our surveys over during the month of December. So we've gone through that. It is quite a dynamic group and they have been doing a lot of work. Very much appreciated. So we should be coming back very soon. We're awaiting information from OPP and then we can then we'll have something more to bring back. So anyways, that's our update unless Ms. Arthurs or Councillor Huntley have anything further to add. Nope. Okay. Motion then to receive those verbal reports. We got Deputy Mayor Graham and Councillor Belch. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is approved. Next item is a general business, item 12.1. This is just to close the loop with regards to our response letter to the city of Peterborough. That was initiated from Mayor Therrien back in last year, late 2019, and that was our response back. I do want to thank our staff. They put a significant amount of effort into that letter, and there was a lot of research that went into it, so thank you. Okay, motion then to receive that item. Councillor Moore and Deputy Mayor Graham. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is approved. Next item was just to draw your attention to Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks letter. I've been assigned to the working group for the conservation authorities, and it starts this week. So anyways, that was just an informational item. So I'm really looking forward to my involvement on that committee. Motion to receive that. Deputy Mayor Graham, Councillor Huntley, Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is approved. Our next item was the addition to our agenda, which is a letter from Autonomy Conservation in regards to our letter that we sent to the province. So the letter is before us. I guess my first question is, our letter was directed to the province for input to the regulations, and that was a result of our meeting on November 30th. But I'm kind of surprised because we weren't looking for a response from Orca. So I'm not exactly sure what this letter is all about. Any insight from staff why we got a response? Nothing? No? Okay. All right. And then, Ms. Hurley?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I believe we received a response due to, with all due respect, with regards to a direction that came out of the County of Peterborough. So I believe, and between you and the Deputy Mayor, I think is probably could speak to that more than I could. But at the same time, I believe the direction, you are correct. We did not ask for a comment with regards to the letter that we as a township sent, but I believe the direction came out of a county council motion. And I believe that's why Autonomy Conservation has responded.
Okay. Councillor Huntley, was there direction from your board for the response?
There was no mention at the board of responding to this letter, to the letter from our township.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, I guess then we just receive it because it appears it's not a board response. It wasn't requested, and it certainly didn't answer any of the questions or concerns that we had that we were sent off to the province in the first place. So motion to receive. Deputy Mayor Graham, Councillor Huntley, Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is approved. Is there any correspondence for information to come forward? Seeing none. Okay. Correspondence for action, there is none. There's no bylaws. There's no unfinished business. Any notices of motion? None. Confirming bylaw, being bylaw number 2021-01, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the meeting held January 18th, 2021, be read a first, second, third time, signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the corporate seal attached thereto. Moved by Deputy Mayor Graham, seconded by Councillor Huntley. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is approved. Upcoming events and meetings, Tuesday, January 19th, Cabot Monaghan Library Board meeting at 7 p.m. Virtually. I assume that means via Zoom.
Yes.
Yes. Thursday, January 21st, special budget meeting, 1 p.m. via Zoom. Thursday, January 21st, special budget meeting where the public is invited to speak, 6 p.m. via Zoom. Monday, January 25th, Millbrook Valley Trails Advisory Committee meeting at 5 p.m. via Zoom. And Tuesday, January 26th, special council meeting with regards to water, wastewater, 1 p.m. via Zoom. And Councillor Huntley, you said this Thursday, what would the date be? That is the 21st?
21st at 7 p.m.
21st at 7 p.m. for the AGM for Orca. Motion then to adjourn. Councillor Belch and Councillor Moore. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is approved.